So, in this video, part 2, I will play little clips from the previous video, part 1, and explain furthermore. This will give you a good idea on how I think and process information. This video is all about my receptive language skills. Imagine a dog wagging her tail. She's probably happy and excited. Imagine a cat wagging her tail. She's probably angry. Both the dog and the cat are using the same language or communication method, which is the movement of the tail, but to say very different things. But the cat will get more angry because she doesn't want to play. And the dog just doesn't seem to understand. The dog just doesn't get it, thinks the cat. This is how I feel when I type in English. I'm using English words, yes, and so do you, but we are speaking two different languages. So, I often feel like, even if my words are straightforward, that the other person totally missed the concept of the message or meaning behind what I said. This can lead me to get frustrated. Also, I often use words that have nothing to do with what I'm saying to say something. Example, I may sign cat to say bye, or I'm leaving, I'm going home, I want to go home. The sign for cat is usually related to something about going home, because we have cats at home. My language is often based on associations. Therefore, very often when I sign cat, I'm not talking about a cat. I use the sign for turtle to mean slow, or it's taking a long time. I wave goodbye to say good night. So, my English words have a different meaning in my language than in yours. Likewise, when you use your English words, I might understand something totally different than what you are actually telling me. I misinterpret your messages regularly, which leads me to not being able to follow your directions. Receptive language is one of my biggest struggles. I may struggle with receptive language more than expressive language, because I can type well, as you see by the narrations of my videos, but for me to try to understand what someone else is saying, that's very difficult. I know what I want to say, and I will find ways to say it over time, but to try to understand what you say is often impossible. I'm always confused. I'm living in a world of confusion. I'm confused nearly each day. More about this later. You might raise your voice at me, or get angry, or frustrated. I can't raise my voice at you. I can't tell you that you are hurting me. I can't say stop. Basically, I can't stand up for myself in a verbal way like you do. So, I can get hurt easily. To be nonverbal makes me very vulnerable. Example, if bullies come near, you can raise your voice at them and say, "Leave me alone, or I'll call the cops." I can't do this. I can't tell them to leave me alone, so they stay, and have lots of opportunities to be mean with me. I have gotten followed before. Now, you may think that if I get hurt or bullied, it's because I am letting them hurt me by not standing up. In a way, you are telling me that it's my fault. But I can't stand up. I don't have these defense mechanisms within me. And maybe I don't know how to stand up. Autism causes issues with social skills. There's lots of things that I just don't know, or don't know how to do. If something specific in terms of life skills or social skills is not directly taught to me in a direct way, I may not know how. All I can do is leave or run away, but even that doesn't always work. Another thing is that, sometimes people with special needs are not permitted to stand up. We may try, but you who is more powerful, will not let us stand up, or say no. I'm often not permitted to say no. You have no idea the amount of obedience expectations that are being put on people with special needs. We are trained to obey, comply, conceal, and let ourselves get hurt. Because if we don't comply, or if we fight a bit, something worse will happen to us. If you try to encourage me to stand up, you are making things worse. To me it seems like you don't understand that I really can't. For example, is a mouse able to stand up to a cat? Usually not. So, if you tell a mouse, the cat is hurting you, because you were letting him, the mouse may say, he's bigger and stronger, I couldn't escape. A mouse has no chance with a cat. I'm like a mouse. Most often than not, I get hurt out of people's good intentions. To have good intentions in your heart doesn't mean that acting upon them is the best thing for me. Very often good intentions are what makes things worse, and what makes me regress. Good intentions are examples of an area where you don't permit me to say no. For example, if you want to help with something and I say no, the help you want to give becomes pressuring and forceful because you don't accept my no. I'm often not allowed to say no. Be careful with good intentions and the help you want to give. Often, those who come into my life with the intentions to help makes things much worse, but those who are not trying to help see miracles of progression before their eyes. I can't function under pressure. If you want to help, without understanding how I process information and language, you could be setting me up for burnout and regression. It's very difficult to work with me and teach me things. Sometimes, the best way to help is to not get involved, to back off, and not try to help. In that moment, I cannot write words that I do not have. If you expect me to communicate in a state where words are lost to me, how could I possibly type to explain or say how I'm feeling? So, this is where I struggle with expressive language. Imagine if you have a bowl of mixed fruits in front of you. You want to grab a piece of apple, but you need to put your hands through all the fruits and push some away and go deep down into the bowl to finally get your piece of apple. It's a bit like that in my head. In the bowl of my head, there's so many words and feelings that it's hard to find the one I want and express it. I do sense it when you don't understand what I am saying. It's obvious to me. I love when you repeat to me what you think I may be saying. This way I can test your knowledge on my words. If you repeat and tell me in your own way what you think I'm saying, I will automatically know if you understood me or not, because if what you are saying is not what I wanted to say, it will be obvious. So then, I can try to re-explain if needed, or I can just get the reassurance that you understood. Most of what you say will confuse me. It's not all clear in my head. My stream of receptive communication skills is often foggy. Confusion is one of my most common emotion. Confusion leads to fear, anxiety, and much stress, because, if I don't understand something, especially the concept of what is being said, or has been said, that's very scary. To struggle to understand words, concept behind words, or the environment, makes the world a very scary place. I'm confused every day, and I try to figure out stuff, but I can't. I never, or rarely figure it out. So, I just remain confused. If you try to re-explain, justify, or reason with me, you could end up making things worse. More words won't help, because then, I will get confused with your explanations, on top of the previous confusion I was already dealing with. And justifications and reasoning will lead me to get very mad at you. Reasoning is like an attack. You attack me with your reasoning skills that are meaningless to me. I don't take justifications and reasoning well. due to a different language processing and different emotional maturity levels. Justifications and reasoning are often not the best way to talk to me. Usually they make things worse. There's so many words or ways of talking to me that I'm incapable of handling. Confusion leads to fear, which leads to meltdowns. Or confusion leads to anxiety, which leads to fear, which leads to anger, which leads to meltdowns. I go to confession after nearly each time I try to explain something complicated. Imagine having such awful social and communication skills that nearly each time you say something or socialize, you feel like you must go to confession later. It's very difficult for me to figure out what is sinful and what is not. I'm always confused with what I say or do, and wonder if it needs to be confessed. I take things so literally, which can make interesting confessions. For example, once I confessed killing a spider and other bugs, because there's a commandment that says, "Thou shalt not kill." This really made the priest laugh. Another time, as part of my confession, I said that my cats had been fighting. We're not supposed to hurt each other, and if cats fight they could hurt each other. I wanted my cats to get God's mercy. After this confession, I was so happy. In my mind, the cats had been forgiven, and God would still love them. Sometimes, when I go to confession, I really don't know what I'm doing. All of this has something to do with receptive language issues. I don't receive information in the same way as you do, so I'm always confused.